Well, we are opening this live broadcast tonight, coming to you right here from Broadcasting House in the capital city of Nairobi, Kenya, by thanking you all for joining us a little earlier on during the inauguration of President William Samoei Ruto. We were extremely delighted that you made us your channel of choice. You remember the president made promises. He promised to make each and every Kenyan proud, and he also went ahead and said that gave a guarantee that there will be economic fairness right across the country.
Well, and it's a day of national pride as the world hail Kenya's smooth and peaceful transition. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. This is Prime Edition. We are live from Broadcasting House and of course we are online. My name is O'Brien Kimani. At O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle.
And my name is Mboya at Mboya24. Later on at the tail end of this live broadcast, we're delighted to host two guests, Davis Kampale, an analyst, and also Dr. Julian Raw. We will be dissecting whatever event took place earlier on in the day. But first things first, we start with our top stories.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
A new dawn for Kenya. President William Ruto takes oath of office.
I will appoint the 6 judges already nominated for appointment to the Court of Appeal, which was done 3 years ago by the Judicial Service Commission.
Getting down to work, President Ruto appoints 6 judges.
We have already made arrangements to make 1.4 million bags of fertilizer available at Kenya shillings 3,500 for a 50-kilogram bag.
And fulfilling promises, fertilizer prices down as port operations revert back to Mombasa. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Our sign language interpreter is Susan Thuku. Straight to our top story. President William Ruto has taken oath of office as Kenya's 5th president in an elaborate ceremony organized to precision. Ruto was sworn into office around about 12:30 p.m. Tuesday at the Moi Sports Complex in Kasarani in an event attended by over 16 heads of state as well as government, witnessed by thousands and thousands of Kenyans. The ceremony was conducted by Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Anna Madi, and also was witnessed by the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, as per the dictates of the Assumption of Office of the President Act. Camp Chemeza opens our coverage tonight with that report.
William Samoei Ruto.
In full realization of the high calling I assume as president of Kenya.
13 minutes past 1 p.m., Kenya had a new head of state, with William Ruto taking oath of office as the 5th president as prescribed by the Assumption of the Office of the President Act.
I have the honor and privilege to...
The swearing-in ceremony entailing 2 parts. The first, led by the judiciary, who saw Ruto, who arrived at Kasarani as president-elect, taking oath of office in an exercise conducted by the Registrar of the Judiciary, Ann Amadi, and witnessed by Chief Justice Martha Koome.
Tumpongeze His Excellency, the 5th President.
5 minutes later, Rigathi Gachagua took his oath as Deputy President of Kenya. Once the mess of the judiciary was lowered, the Chief Justice then handed over the briefcase containing sealed oaths to the Head of Public Service, Dr. Joseph Kinyua. Once the judiciary was done, the military took over the event, with immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta taking to the podium to hand over the instruments of power, which began with the Constitution and then the ceremonial sword. Immediately, the ADC changed to Ruto, who was now Kenya's Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces. and the ceremony capped with a photo session of the immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto, and power had changed from the 4th to the 5th administration. With each and every transition in leadership and changes in regimes, citizens tend to raise their expectations for better governance and improved social and economic welfare. And as the new administration takes over, Kenyans remain optimistic that issues ailing the country will be solved. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi.
Still on the inauguration day, and Kenya's 5th President William Ruto received the instruments of power on Tuesday in accordance with Article 141 of the Constitution that requires the handover to be done between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. As per the Constitution, Dr. Ruto received the sword as part of the instruments of power. Immediately after receiving the instruments of power, Kenya Defence Forces welcomed the new president with a 21-gun salute, signaling the beginning of a new era. Gladys Mungai reports.
Tuesday, 13th September marked the end of an era and the beginning of another regime.
Nakala hii ya katiba ikiwa ni ishara kuwa taifa litaongozwa kwa uongozi dhabiti ambao
the seamless democratic transfer of power ranging back to independence. The recent one in 2013 when the late President Mwai Kibaki handed over the instruments of power to the outgoing President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Now, Dr. William Ruto, the 5th President of the Republic, was handed over the 2010 Constitution. And the ceremonial sword made of stainless steel handle and a gold-coated blade. The instrument signaling that the country was governed by the rule of law. The ceremony also witnessed the unveiling and hoisting of William Ruto's presidential flag. And at the same time, lowering of the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta's flag. This ceremony would then lead to a 21-gun salute. Accorded to the 5th President to usher in a new regime.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
As soon as the President took his oath of office, the aide-de-camp also shifted from the outgoing president to the new president. The aide-de-camp, usually a member of the military, is
a bit of a hiccup there. We hope to sort that as soon as we get it up and running. Let's just move on. For now, President William Ruto has appointed 6 judges that President Uhuru Kenyatta, remember, declined to confirm in June of last year. Speaking after taking oath of office as the 5th, Ruto also committed to upscaling the budget of the judiciary by 3 billion shillings every year. And as Gishuki Washira reports, the new head of state also intends to enhance efficiency of security agency by giving the Kenya Police Service financial autonomy.
President William Ruto's maiden speech gave special recognition to electoral agency IEBC, the judiciary and security agencies for safeguarding the will of Kenyans in last month's general election, despite what he said were attempts to interfere with the outcome.
We have blazed the trail in an increasingly challenging environment where democracy is consistently on trial. We have come a long way in our nation's journey to freedom, and going by our most recent performance in these elections, we conclude in confidence that we are almost home.
The new president appointing the 6 judges that his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta declined to confirm last year, despite their nomination by the Judicial Service Commission. Further, President Ruto promised to upscale judiciary's budget by 3 billion shillings every year, as well as set up high courts in 7 remaining counties.
These resources will support the bottom-up scaling of justice by increasing the number of small claims courts from the current 25 to 100. To further demonstrate my commitment to the independence of the judiciary, this afternoon I will appoint the 6 judges already nominated for appointment to the Court of Appeal, which was done 3 years ago by the Judicial Service Commission.
The electoral agency IEBC and oversight institutions like the Office of Auditor General and Controller of Budget are also set to benefit from budgetary increment. According to President Ruto, the IEBC set new standards in the public service by raising the bar of integrity.
Going forward, we will support the IEBC's institutional capacity so as to expand the deployment of technology to cover all elections, from those of MCA to those of the president.
The new president also outlined some of immediate reforms in the security agencies, including making Kenya Police Service financially autonomous. Currently, the budget of the Kenya Police Service is pegged in the Ministry of Interior, and the new changes will make Inspector General of Police the accounting officer.
I have instructed that the instruments conferring financial autonomy to the National Police Service by transferring their budget from the Office of the President and designating the Inspector General as the accounting officer be placed on my desk for signature this afternoon.
On education matters, the new head of state promised to establish a task force that will collect views on the competence-based curriculum.
I will establish an education reform task force in the presidency, which will be launched in the coming weeks. It will collect views from all players in line with the constitutional demand of public participation, and we are particularly alive to the anxieties of parents on the twin transition of the last 844 class and the first CBC class in January next year. I assure all that there will be a solution to the matter before then.
Immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta also getting to serve in the new administration, to chairing the peace initiatives in the East African community on behalf of Kenya. Risho Kiwashira, Prime Edition.
Well, it has been quite a resourceful day, and I want to find out from you, Tom, where were you when the 5th was sworn in?
I was at Location X.
Location X? Yeah. What were you doing?
I was monitoring the events, and you know what? What caught my eye was the disposition and the demeanor that the president projected. Immediately saying that I'm settling to work, beginning afternoon, and giving directives. Those judges who, had not been appointed, have now been appointed. He's waiting to put pen to paper. And he also spoke a bit about the CBC system. I found that interesting. It's still being implemented. And he says, hey, you know what, guys, we may have to go back to the people just to hear. And I hope that, my guests, Davis Kambale and Dr. Julian Roa, will sort of just weigh in and tell us what their thoughts are around, because those are key issues.
Oh, absolutely. And we look forward for that conversation. And for me, the key highlight, was how the whole process, was executed.
Oh, seamless.
What we call the military precision.
Seamless.
And of course, the whole world watching, as Kenya, shown how, transitions can be done in a peaceful and of course in a smooth manner. So that was a moment for me.
Yeah, and I also like the production aspect of it.
Oh, KBC. You can't never get it wrong, brother.
You said it, I didn't say it. We were taking a short break.
You're watching us live from Broadcasting House, and of course, our first break is coming up right next, and thereafter we shall be back with more stories.
Stay with us.
I'm the photographer Black Milk. I have an exhibition in 8 weeks about how things get better with time. Darling Fluffy Kinky inspired me. I'm seeing how the twists blend with her hair over time. How she actually feels more confident. She's really more beautiful every week. That's definitely worth celebrating. Darling Fluffy Kinky. Twists that get better every day, just like you.
Kupata Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial *811 *817 hash. Mwenyezi Mungu ni mwamba wangu, ngome yangu na mkombozi wangu. Mungu wangu, mwamba wangu ninayemkimbilia ninapohitaji kuwa salama. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial *811 *817 hash. *811 *817 hash.
There's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun. Entertaining and refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer.
Don't miss out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
Welcome back to the special coverage of the Inauguration Day. Well, all port operations will now have to revert to the port of Mombasa. In his inaugural speech, President William Ruto said he will be issuing instructions for clearing of goods and other attendant operations to Mombasa Port as part of a commitment made to the Kenyans during the campaign trails. The government had transferred port clearance from the port of Mombasa in a move to decongest the port.
The port operations will now be returned to Mombasa in a move President William Ruto says will restore thousands of jobs.
There seems to be some hiccup there, and I hope the people in the back end will have that sorted out. But we'll get back to that story because it's a weighty story. Meanwhile, let's move on. Fuel and maize flour subsidies are likely to be phased out by the government due to their sustainability. President William Ruto has said that the two subsidies have cost the exchequer more than 80 billion shillings so far. Without fuel subsidies, consumers will have to pay 214 shillings for a litre of petrol and 206 shillings thereabout for diesel. Maize flour subsidy has been less successful, leaving the government with more than 10 billion shillings of debt owed to maize millers. Here's that report.
This announcement by President William Ruto is coming less than 24 hours before the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority review pump fuel prices. EPRA is expected to announce new monthly fuel prices tomorrow, and all eyes are on the authority to see what new prices will look like. If the government phases out the fuel subsidy program, a litre of petrol will jump to 214 shillings, while diesel will retail at 206 and 17 cents. This is likely to stoke a new round of inflation, making life more unbearable for the majority of Kenyans.
Subsidy alone, the taxpayers have spent a whopping 144 billion, 60 billion in the last 4 months alone. If the subsidy continues to the end of the financial year, it will cost taxpayers 280 billion, equivalent to the entire national government development budget.
Inflation jumped from 61 months in August to 8.5%, spelling more pain for Kenyans. EPRA data shows that diesel accounted for the highest share of the subsidy at 45.7 billion shillings, followed by Super Petrol at 23.3 billion shillings, while kerosene was third at 2 billion shillings in the 6 months to August this year. Speaking during his inauguration, President Ruto has also rolled out a new raft of measures aimed at spurring economic activities. The new measures include settling of all pending bills and reforming the tax administration in the country to make it more friendly to small businesses.
Urgently need to expand our tax base. Our job creation agenda and the capitalization of our SMEs will go a long way in broadening our tax bracket. We will make KRA more professional, efficient, responsive, and people-friendly. I urge taxpayers to respond by undertaking their patriotic duty and pay their taxes.
Ruto says modalities will be created in the next coming weeks to ensure there is a template that will guide the clearing of the 600 billion shillings spending bills.
We shall give priority to the expeditious resolution of our pending bills so that the government can meet its obligation and facilitate better economic performance. In the coming weeks, we shall advise government creditors on the mechanisms for the resolution of their outstanding payments. We are committed to ensuring that they are paid in the shortest time possible.
To guarantee financial inclusion, Ruto says the government will review Credit Reference Bureau regulations to abolish arbitrary listing of defaulters.
A new system of credit score rating that provides borrowers with an opportunity to manage their credit worthiness. This will eliminate the culture of blacklisting.
In a bid to show up economic activities in the real estate sector and reduce informal settlements in the country, the government has promised to construct 250,000 housing units annually. To harness the financial and social muscle of the diaspora, President Ruto will create a ministry in charge of diaspora to, among others, oversee diaspora affairs and remittance activities that Ruto says is vital in replenishing the country's foreign reserves.
The focus has been on remittances while the fundamental rights as citizens have been neglected. To correct this oversight, I pledge to elevate diaspora to a ministry level, strengthen diaspora services in all embassies, work with Parliament to set up a committee that will exclusively deal with diaspora issues, and set up a mechanism for public participation by Kenyans living in diaspora.
Benson Droba reporting for Prime Edition.
And now on agriculture, where more than 1.4 million bags of fertilizer will be shipped into the country starting next week. President William Ruto has said the imported fertilizer will retail at 3,500, well below the prevailing market prices of 6,500. President Ruto has further said his administration will develop a new plan to distribute high-quality subsidized seeds to farmers in the country, as Benson Brioba reports.
The cost of fertilizer has surged in the last year to an all-time high of 6,500 shillings, pushing production cost well beyond the reach of ordinary farmers. This, coupled with adverse weather, has aggravated the food situation in the country. Earlier efforts to subsidize the cost of fertilizer have failed due to insufficient funds. Speaking after his swearing in, President William Ruto has outlined various measures meant to tackle the high cost of farming in the country. Ruto's administration further says it will increase funding to producers, mainly manufacturers and agro-processors, to lower the cost of food products.
The intention, therefore, is to make fertilizer, good quality seed, and other agricultural inputs affordable and available.
To To alleviate the shortage of fertilizer, 1.4 million bags of the commodity are expected in the country from next week, which will retail at 3,500 shillings from the current 7,000 shillings in some regions in the country.
Short rains, we have already made arrangements to make 1.4 million bags of fertilizer available at Kenya shillings 3,500 for a 50 kilogram bag, down from the current 6,500. This fertilizer will be available from next week.
The fertilizer subsidy plan will also be extended to tea farmers, with the new administration initiating talks with the Kenya Tea Development Agency to distribute the fertilizer to farmers at a cost of 3,500 shillings.
Tea farmers, we have made arrangements with KTDA to immediately supply tea farmers with fertilizer at 3,500 shillings, down from Kenya shillings 5,600.
Benson Droba reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, of course, some of those directives coming as a result of the question of subsidy, which the president indicated is not sustainable. But let's just look at other directives that he also gave, one of them being the one we earlier talked about, the appointment of 6 judges who had earlier on been rejected by Uhuru Kenyatta. Let's have that on our board there. You see 6 of those judges of court of appeal to be sworn in on Tuesday. The president coming out very strongly on that. The financial autonomy of the police services to be executed immediately. The budget issues to be removed from the office of the president and made independent as a way of boosting the war on corruption. He also talks about boosting the fund to the judiciary. Another directive, provincial administration to keep off politics. You remember that? An issue that's very close to the president's heart, the use of the provincial administration to achieve political goals. The other directive is fuel subsidy and unga subsidy not being a solution, and I would like to hear from my guests what that means. The other one, of course, is 1.4 million bags of fertilizer to be available at that price you see on your screen, 3,500 shillings. 20 new markets to be built in Nairobi City Council. I think this one I heard them talk about during the campaign. Credit Reference Bureau, this one many Kenyans know. This one is one many Kenyans know. He has talked about it, wants to end the punitive blacklisting and transforming to credit score. Central Bank preparing guidelines on transactions exceeding 1 million. I need to ask my guests, what does that mean? Are we opening up ourselves to something? I don't know. And then the Hustler Fund to put money into the pockets of people through credit, making credit affordable.
Yeah, and the most interesting thing is that, I mean, we are yet to know the details about the Hustlers Fund, but we are yet to see or to know whether it's going to be modeled along the youth fund, whereby, you know, young people are supposed to form groups and then open a bank account, get registered, and then they get funds that they were supposed to utilize to open a business. So we are still following to know what kind of a fund this is going to be.
Exactly. But it's there. It's one of the directives. So I would also be happy to hear what my guests have to say. Low-cost housing program targeting 250,000 units every year to be rolled out. Jua Kali to provide customized products for the housing program. That's a good one. It's an interesting one.
I mean, also something else that's very interesting there is a 250,000 units, you know, of houses every year. I mean, this is going to be such a monumental task, eh?
Yeah.
But of course, it requires a lot of public as well as private partnership, because that is not going to be small money. Yeah. It's quite a significant investment, and of course, that requires so much energy.
Absolutely, and finances, as you indicate. But in terms of space, I mean, it's as simple as just let's grow going up rather than growing laterally.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that means, you know, possibilities of seeing lots of apartments and flats.
Look, another major news there is the clearing of goods to refer to the port of Mombasa.
Oh, you asked that, yeah.
The question that you know, all of us would want to find out is exactly what happens to the Naivasha dry port and the people who are employed there, and of course the ICDC here in Nairobi. Remember, it was expanded about 2 years ago. What becomes of the expanded ICDC? So I think those are the critical critical information that we will be seeking out to find out from the government going forward.
A very decisive president. Pending bills to be cleared as a matter of priority. Pending bills, we know some people have died waiting to be paid after taking loans from banks to go and supply county governments. And then the question of pending bill comes in, and you hear so-and-so got pressure, got a stroke, and he's no more.
Look, you're talking about over 500 billion shillings owed to suppliers by the government. That's quite a major investment there by the private sector, and if you are to deny them that form of funds, then are you definitely killing the private sector? And so we hope that this is one of the processes that is going to be expedited.
Oh yes. Thank you, O'Brien. Thank you for weighing in.
Very good.
All right, let's move on. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Hey, we have to get used to this now. He's promised to support his boss, President Dr. William Samoei Ruto, in transforming the country. In his maiden address after taking the oath of office, Gachagua thanked Kenyans for giving him the opportunity to serve them. Here's that report.
I, Rigathi Gachagua,
do swear
that I will always
truly and diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya in the office.
Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua took the oath of office as the second in command immediately after President William Ruto. The oath was administered by Chief Registrar of Judiciary Ann Amadi.
I, Martha Karambu Kome, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, do hereby present to you, the people of Kenya, the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, and present him.
Tumpongeze sasa kwa makofi Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
And immediately he assumed the number 2 position. Gachagua promised that their leadership will strive to provide a conducive environment for business in the country.
The fact that you are a hard worker, you have passion to serve, you are zealous, you are a go-getter. The journey ahead of you is not rosy. And I want to ask the people of Kenya, the way you prayed for President William Ruto to be elected as president, please continue praying for him and his team to be able to start the economic transformation of this great republic.
The second in command said that the new government, through his boss, President William Ruto, will work tirelessly to revive the dilapidated economy and transform lives of Kenyans.
Quite unfortunate again, we're having a challenge with the audio for that report, and I believe we're working on it, and thereafter we shall revisit it. Let's move on where Uganda's, or at least, which one is this? Yes, at least 20 heads of state were among the foreign dignitaries and diplomats who attended the inauguration ceremony and of the Kenya's 5th President, Dr. William Ruto, at the Mboya International Sports Center, Kasarani, in Nairobi. Among the heads of state were Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, his Tanzanian counterpart Samia Suluhu, and Rwanda's Paul Kagame.
Several heads of state and government made their way to the Mboya International Sports Center, Kasarani, this morning via the Thika Superhighway. The sole purpose to witness the swearing-in of Kenya's 5th head of state. One after the other, they were received at the stadium by top government officials, among them Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Rachel Omamo. At least 18 African heads of state and government attended the event. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, Tanzania President Samia Suluhu Hassan, Seychelles President Ravel Ramkalawan, and Burundi President Evariste Ndayishimiye were the first to arrive. Others were Malawi's Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, Guinea-Bissau Umar Mukhtar Sissoko Mbalo, DR Congo President Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Tshilombo, Sierra Leone President Julius Maada Bio, Zimbabwe President Emmerson Mnangagwa, Mozambique President Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, South Sudan President Salva Kiir Mayardit, and Uganda's Yoweri Museveni.
In order for us to catch up with the United States, we need also to look at the issue of the regional market. Because when you produce, who buys? The more people that buy from you, the better for the business.
Kama kuna zawadi mlioitoa kwa Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki mwaka huu ni zawadi ya amani mlioiweka katika uchaguzi.
Burundian President General Evariste Ndayishimiye, who is also the chair of East African Community, called for cemented relationship among the member countries.
Nikiwa rais wa Burundi na mwenyekiti wa mkutano mkuu wa marais wa nchi za Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki, ninatarajia kufanya kazi na wewe ili kuimarisha maendeleo kwa kanda letu.
The entourage of dignitaries also included officials from the Islamic Republic of Iran and Egyptian Special Envoy, among others. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Many thanks indeed, Yusuf. Now, a section of local leaders have lauded President William Ruto's economic jumpstart agenda. The leaders, who included governors as well as members of parliament, expressed hope that the new regime will reduce the cost of basic commodities and also improve the livelihood of most Kenyans who survive below $1 a day. Here's that report.
Political leaders allied to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance are seemingly contented with the President William Ruto's plan in addressing issues affecting the country in his initial days in office.
I agree that William, being a hustler, he understands from the background that true people are suffering and we need to actually make their life easy by bringing down the commodities that are essential to the people of Kenya.
The job ahead is momentous, but I think we have got the mindset and the kind of thoughts, critical thinkers in the team who can propel our country in the coming days to the right direction.
We are giving you an opportunity to work. We are going to make a tax regime and policy that is going to make you work and get your benefits.
The legislators say the president, together with his deputy Gachagua, would serve the country to improved livelihoods.
Parliament is going to clear out the entry that was left by the 12th Parliament. On matters economy, there are some critical issues that were raised in the 12th Parliament that ought to be cleared in the 13th Parliament. One is the issue of debt in this country. First of all, we need to put a pulse on the finger of the debt in this country to first know how much debt do we have. Secondly, we will need to stop digging this hole because we're already in a hole. Before we do anything else, we need to stop digging and start climbing out of the debt hole.
In their messages at the Moy International Sports Center Kasarani, the president and his deputy committed to deliver on their campaign pledges to the people of Kenya.
It has met our expectations, especially when the president declared that he was going to swear in the 6 judges. I think that's a promise he made during elections, and it's a very good start because it means he has started honoring what he pledged to the people of Kenya. And I think that's something that all of us should also emulate as governors, that there are things that we told our people that we are going to do, we must start implementing them as early as this. I really want to thank His Excellency the President, first of all, for being sworn in and for living by what he promised the people of Kenya.
Going forward, the buck stops with President Dr. William Samoei Ruto and his deputy Gachagua on how they will form the next government in delivering the manifesto and their pledges to Kenyans. And it will be interesting to see how the duo will also deliver on their promises to Kenyans in the next 100 days. Irene Mchuma Udim, Channel 1 at the Moy International Sports Center Kasarani in the county of Nairobi.
President William Ruto Motorcade left the official residence at exactly 11 a.m. for his inauguration ceremony at the Kasarani Stadium. Few minutes later, at exactly 11:40 a.m., former President Uhuru Kenyatta's presidential motorcade left State House for Kasarani Stadium for the inauguration ceremony of his successor and now the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Zainab Said has the report.
At around 10:45 a.m. today, Dr. William Ruto's motorcade left the official deputy president residence in Karen, Nairobi, for his inauguration as the 5th president of Kenya at the Kasarani Stadium. Ruto entered his motorcade as president-elect with his wife Rachel Ruto minutes later. His motorcade snatched through Ngong Road, then Valley Road to Thika Superhighway, the final destination, the Kasarani Stadium, where he reached at around 11:56 a.m. Amid cheers from thousands of Kenyans who were waiting at Kasarani Stadium. Few minutes later, Uhuru Kenyatta's motorcade left State House for the Kasarani Stadium for the inauguration ceremony of his predecessor, William Ruto. Uhuru entering his presidential limousine in the company of his wife, Margaret Kenyatta, at around 11:40 a.m. with his presidential motorcade. The convoy driving through State House Road, Uhuru Highway, then Thika Road, making its way to the stadium at around 12:05. Uhuru Kenyatta then boarded his ceremonial vehicle and made a final lap at the Kasarani Stadium, where he acknowledged cheers from thousands of Kenyans who had turned up for the inauguration ceremony. For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
While President William Ruto was taking oath inside, thousands of Kenyans were locked outside of the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, after it exceeded the maximum capacity of 60,000 as the country marked a historic moment during the inauguration of President Dr. William Samoei Ruto. The ambitious crowd had no choice but to follow the event from big screens mounted outside of the stadium.
5 a.m., thousands of Kenyans from all walks of life flocked Kasarani Stadium in anticipation of the inauguration of President Dr. William Samoei Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. The 60,000-seat stadium was full to capacity. The development now forcing the disgruntled crowd to force their way by jumping over the secure perimeter fence.
Kulingana vile Wakenya wamekuja hapa wamejaa kwa furaha, isipokuwa uwanja imejaa, lakini wale wako nje tunashukuru tu Mungu kwa sababu hao pia ni Wakenya.
Bahati mbaya nimefika hapa kitu saa 2, uwanja imeshajaa na nimeridhika na najua naenda kuapisha ule mtu kwa aswa kutoka kwa eneo langu Bungoma, anaenda kuamsha makampuni zenye zimeanguka.
Baada tumeingia huko kumekroma aje. Sasa alafu wewe hawazi ingia huko kumechrome. Wewe unadhania gate inaangushwa hivyo.
Mimi nimeridhika maana tuko wengi, so nikipata gate imefungwa na nipate watu wamejaa nitaelewa, unaona.
Nilikuwa na kabiashara kidogo, I'm about to finish. I had 100 pieces, hizi ndio zimebaki 2. Nashukuru sana.
Haikuwa hapa, but I guess tulichelewa kidogo. No wonder tumepata kumejaa, tumeenda hadi huko juu. Hakuna space kabisa, so tumekubali tu, tunaenda nyumbani tuone kwa TV.
Sasa kumefurika, siwezi pata nafasi, lakini hata tuko nje bado tuko entertained.
Away from the Kasarani Stadium, chaotic scenes were witnessed along the busy Thika Superhighway as rowdy groups tried to disrupt peace. Police officers who were joined by a section of boda operators along Thika Road trying to restore calm with no avail. However, the police were forced to use tear gas to disperse the rowdy crowd. As Kenya marked a historical day after the swearing-in of the President William Samoei Ruto, all eyes will be on the next course of action, which will be working for the people of this country. Reporting for Prime Edition from Mo International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi, my name is Frederick Mwoki.
Well, it was a ceremony of its kind at the Kasarani Sports Complex as President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua were sworn into office. Kenyans turning out in their numbers in unique attire. Dignitaries displayed class from their attire to their grand entries. Entertainment was also top-notch. Nancy Okware was there. She saw it all and now she narrated it all.
Tuesday morning at the Kasarani Sports Complex in Nairobi County. Members of the public were already streaming into the 60,000 capacity stadium as early as 3 a.m. People drawn from all walks of life eagerly waiting to witness the swearing in of Dr. William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. Dancers and musicians making sure that the crowd remained entertained before the ceremony officially kicked off. At Karen, we caught up with the then Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua, exercising in readiness for the big day.
We couldn't have time to come and exercise, and in the process I got in very bad shape. I added so many kilos, but I want to assure the people of Kenya in another 3 months I'll be looking good. I'll be back to my shape and keep well and keep fit. I'll be doing this every morning.
On the other hand, his spouse Dorcas Rigathi was getting ready with hairdressers, ensuring she achieved the perfect look for the ceremony. When the hour came, Ruto and Rachel Ruto emerged from the Karen residence and the convoy to Kasarani took off. Members of the public lined up along the roads, cheering on. The crowd at the stadium fully charged as the leaders made their way to the stadium. Uhuru Kenyatta also arriving at the stadium amid cheers. Other invited heads of state and dignitaries not disappointing as they graced the occasion in style. The military parade, on the other hand, marched and conducted its business with ultimate precision. And after the swearing-in ceremony, it was time for the 21-gun salute. The ceremony would culminate with President William Ruto making his maiden lap at the stadium aboard the ceremonial vehicle.
Indeed, it has been a colorful ceremony right here at Kasarani, and as the curtains fall on the fourth administration ushering in the fifth, Kenyans are hopeful of better days ahead. Nancy Okware reporting from Kasarani Stadium, Nairobi.
Excuse me. President William Ruto and the First Lady Rachel Ruto Tuesday evening hosted a state bouquet in honor of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Ruto also hosted visiting heads of state who attended his inauguration as he took oath of office.
On Tuesday, 13 September 2022 marked the last day of former President Uhuru Kenyatta at the State House, a place he has called home for a decade now. And with the turn of events after William Ruto was sworn in as the new president, here Uhuru Kenyatta becomes a guest at a state banquet hosted by President William Ruto and the First Lady Rachel Ruto. Ruto and the First Lady also hosted over 20 visiting head of state who attended his inauguration early in the day. As it is a tradition, the former and incoming presidents always meet for dinner after the handing over ceremony, in a move tailored at ensuring there is a smooth transition. The presidential team had invited 6,000 guests for the state banquet. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Well, it was a rather slow day at Kenya's capital. Nairobi, with the majority of businesses remaining shut and traders seemingly taking the day off to witness the swearing-in of President William Ruto. Nairobi residents calling for reforms that will streamline and address the current economic situation in the country.
Nairobi Central Business District. Minimal activity as few people closed their businesses. The residents present in the city, however, pleaded with the new president, Dr. William Ruto, to prioritize pressing issues affecting the common mwananchi.
There are very many graduates, youths that don't have job. On behalf of youths, I'm requesting President William Samoei Ruto to ease the economy of this country.
Sasa sisi wenye tulikuwa students alafu feesikatukatikia tukakuwa hustlers, hii uchumi at least angalie, na pia hii ushuru yenye inaokotoa na county government make sure imefanya kazi yake, si inaenda inapotelea kwa mifuko ya watu.
The main concern, the high cost of living.
Tunaomba tu atushukishie vitu chini. Hata mwenye tunauzia haeziweza kununua, kama ni unga nini zote ziko bei kali. Hata faida yetu ni kidogo sana.
Ruto, nataka ukue tofauti na mapresident wengine. Ukisema tu utafanyia Wakenya kazi, usishikwe na tamaa.
Ahadi zenye alikuwa amesema atimize, ambapo alisema atapatia youth kazi, atashukisha bei ya chakula, atashukisha bei ya mbolea, uchumi itarudi chini, atapigana na corruption. Hizo ndio vitu za mimi ningependa na ningetazamia sana akuwe anatimiza.
Nairobians now say they are looking forward to a government that takes a keen interest on the prosperity of the common mwananchi, hopeful that the promises made will be met. Reporting for Prime Edition from the Central Business District in Nairobi, I'm Jacqueline Masharia.
Well, that is Jacqueline Masharia, and of course reporting that story from the refurbished Aga Khan walk. Let's now take you to the city of Kisumu, where residents have asked President Dr. William Ruto to prioritize unity of the country as the head of state.
Well, the residents, who were largely supporters of Dr. Ruto's main challenger, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in the run-up to the August 9th presidential poll, also invited the new head of state to the lakeside county of Kisumu as he embarks on delivering on the promises that he made to Kenyans. Remember that the president made a promise to each and every Kenyan that he will make them proud and that, he'll ensure economic fairness right across the country, regardless of how they voted or who they voted for. Here's that report.
Exactly.
Nashukuru sana rais mwenye ameondoka Uhuru Kenyatta, na sasa itabidi tukaribishe rais wetu wa sasa William Ruto. Kwangu kama mimi Kenya, mimi naweza kumuomba tu kazi yake ya kwanza ajaribu tu kuunganisha Wakenya wakoe kitu kimoja. Alafu angalia sectors zile zinaweza saidia vijana upande wa kiajira, at least uchumi wetu iendelee.
Naweza sema president mwenye atakuwa sasa angalie Kisumu, angalie Kenya mzima, asiwe na ubaguzi. Sisi watu wa Kisumu, watu wa Nyanza tumekuwa tukiwachwa nyuma mara mingi, lakini president Uhuru alijaribu kawa rafiki na Raila. Tumeona mabadiliko, tumeona matunda, tumeona uzuri.
Zile vitu yenye serikali mpya alikuwa amesema ataanza na bottom up, sana sana watu wa biashara wa chini. Tuliona kama juzi alikuwa ametangaza atarudisha bei ya unga chini, na umejua hizi vitu yenye tunauza hizi inatoka sehemu ya mkulima. Sasa ameanza na chini ya mbolea ndio akuje kama juu. Akianza hapo tutaona kama vitu itakuwa kuanza kukuja, pesa itakuwa Kenya itachange.
So Kenya tunamwomba asla akuja tutembelee Kisumu, because watu wa Kisumu it's really wako na painful about that, because Kenya tulikuwa tunatarajia watu wa Kisumu hawajapata. So akuje Kisumu, ongea na watu wa Kisumu ndio tujue tuko kwa government, we are together, this is the government of all Kenyans, tujue hivyo. And another thing, sisi ni watu wa biashara. tunamuomba hata kikuja Kisumu aongea na gavana yetu, ingawa yeye ni mtu wa gavana yetu ni mtu wa baba, but government saini ya watu wote. Akuja ongea na Mr. Professor Nyong'o, sisi kama watu wa biashara tufanye kazi bila kukimbizwa huku na huku na huku.
All right, well, we are now going to Mombasa, not for a holiday, of course, my brother.
Absolutely, and straight from Lake City of Kisumu now to the holiday city of Mombasa. And the situation was not different as millions of Mombasa residents, welcomed and watched the proceedings from screens and, of course, from TV stations. Let's now listen in.
Naomba pia aweze kuangalia vijana. Alisema kutakuwa na ministry itakuwa inashughulikia vijana, manake ile wakati alikuwa na launch youth charter tulienda Nairobi, mimi na hawa wenzangu tuko hapa. So tunaomba vijana tuangaliwe, manake sisi ndio wenye nguvu, sisi ndio wenye mbio, lakini tumesaulika.
Kama vijana wa pwani atupatie kipaumbele, zile ahadi zote ambazo alizotuahidi katika kile youth charter aweze kuzitimiza na tuweze kupata inclusion katika government ya Kenya yake ya UDA.
Kitu ambacho naomba kwa sahi ni akumbuke kutushukishia bei ya bidhaa, maanake tunateseka. Na jambo la pili, alikuwa kwa meka ahadi ya kuwa atatoa CBC. Tunaomba itolewe, maanake it's so expensive, especially for us the parents. Na ningeomba pia upande wa security, especially Mombasa. Tumekuwa na ndugu zetu ambao wamekuwa wakipotezwa kihorera, kumekuwa na mauaji. Tunaomba kama serikali ambao tumeiunga mkono, ambao tumesimama nao kuanzia dakika ya mwanzo mpaka mwisho, iweze kutuangalia na kutulindia ndugu zetu.
Na ninajua sasa kuanzia leo itakuwa wakina mama wanafaidika bila kuangalia rangi au dini. Tunampongeza sana na tunaomba aendelee kutuangalia sisi kina mama ndio tuweze kulea watoto.
Kitu ambayo imetupa nguvu zaidi na new hope vizuri sana imekuwa hii mambo na port kuregea Mombasa. Hizo services ambazo zinaregea Mombasa inaonyesha kwamba at least other chains of businesses ambazo zilikuwa zinasupportiwa na the port services zitaanza kuregea hapa Mombasa. Na tena zaidi tunashukuru kwamba kuna hustler fund ambayo amesema kwamba itakuja kwa wananchi. Kwa hivyo tunajua wale SMEs, zile biashara ndogo at least kidogo itakuwa na facilitation ya hizi pesa. Kwa hivyo uchumi utaendelea kugrow na watu wengi watapata ajira na wengi wataweza kujiajiri kwa sababu hii hustler fund ambayo inakuja hapa. So tunashukuru sana na list pia imepea tumaini nzuri sana kwa vijana na zaidi pia kwa wanabiashara ambao wamesema ta stick so much into watu wa production ambao ndio wanajua itaweza kukuza ajira kwa wingi sana.
We are expecting that Ruto will really take care of us as hustlers, especially here in Mombasa. And also, in terms of tourism, we are expecting a lot from him. So we are looking forward to seeing a change of the current, especially the current economic crisis we are facing as Kenya. We expect Ruto, Dr. William Ruto is going to do a lot.
Na tunataka kusema tumefurahi sana, especially ile concept imetolewa na Wakenya kwamba the rule runs now from the bourgeoisie. Ikakuja kwa maneno ya kawaida, means every Kenyan child has hope of getting anywhere up to the presidency of this country. Na tunaomba tu kwamba vile wenzangu wamesema kwamba ile collapse economy ya Mombasa, especially on tourism, the port and other areas, itapatiwa attention.
For Mombasa specifically, we expect tourism to be energized. We expect the port to be restored. We expect the sanity. We expect rule of law. And above all Kenyans require service all over the country.
walimu na wanafunzi mpo. KBC Channel 1 inakutoa darasani na kukuleta jukwani ili upate kuaminika.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Tayari kuwakariria shairi kwa kichwa.
Kuelimika.
Udhui gani ya lugha yanayojitokeza katika kauli hii ukirejelea mataifa mengi barani Afrika?
Na kisha uburudike.
Moja ni fahari yetu, baba, kina mama na watoto.
Sauti za njiwa tamu sana.
Sanaa ya Kiswahili, elimu na maarifa bila mipaka, kila Jumapili saa 7:30 papa hapa KBC Channel 1.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu.
What did you just say?
Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
ni tamthilia tosha.
Alinishika hivi.
What? Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Kabisa kama uelewi kitu unafaa uelewe.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
Wewe uone hizi kelele zako ndo zinafanya mtoto anaumia au mpaka Dr. Zero akwambie ndo uelewe? Sitaki kumuona kesi nyumbani kwangu. Period.
It's going to be okay very soon. We'll be happy, I promise. Not too soon. Hapa kuna furaha.
Mimi ananihusu hiyo kahindi.
Don't you think I deserve this?
But you're spending too much, Zari.
Dr. Zero, she says she wants to help me.
Who's this young man?
Regardless of what you think, I'm still the avian king. Even if your father is here, he should still show me respect.
Mother! Mother! Mother? Mother, why did you abandon me and father? I think you're mistaken.
There's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun. Entertaining and refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer.
Don't miss out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. Before I hand it over to O'Brien to give us the profiles of the president, his deputy, and also the outgoing president, on the smart board, let us look at the big screen where millions of Kenyans followed the swearing-in ceremony from various screens erected in many parts of the country, from here, Nairobi, all the way to Eldoret, and also down to Mombasa. Millions of Kenyans could see large screens were mounted on strategic locations. Why? To give Kenyans an opportunity to watch the proceedings live from Moi International Stadium, Kasarani, and we're happy that you chose KBC as your preferred channel of choice. Our reporter, Avis Otieno, highlights the story of what happened during those proceedings.
The inauguration ceremony of William Ruto as the Kenya's 5th president at Kasarani Sports Center Tuesday was a historical day for Kenya by all means. A section of Kenyans who were lucky had the opportunity to physically attend the event. Those who didn't get the opportunity followed the ceremony on TV and screens mounted in various strategic places. In Meru, residents flocked the local hotels and clubs to watch the live coverage by KBC Channel 1. The excited residents we spoke to say though they had wished to be in Kasarani to witness the occasion but could not make it.
Lakini sikuweza kufika sababu watu walijaa kwa mapema. Niliamka mapema sana kwa sababu nilikuwa nataka kukua niende, lakini vile nilifungulia TV nikapata saa 11 already watu wamejaa, nikasema sitaweza kufika. Nikaamua nikuje niangalie kwa TV, tufuatilie kwa TV na kwa simu.
Nikaona sitaweza kufika huko kwa sababu huko kuna msongamano. Nikaona sasa nikuje kwa TV niangalilie kwa TV hapa kwa sababu huko kuenda ni ngumu.
In Embu, locals throng electronic outlets to at least have a glimpse of the inauguration event on the televisions at display.
Nina furaha sana siku hii ya leo. Daktari William Ruto ndiye president wetu. Sisi kama watu wa transport tuko na matarajio mingi sana. Tuna hope ya kwamba mafuta itateremka, tuweze kuchapa biashara zetu vizuri.
Tungetaka sisi watu wa street tuinuliwe, tujengewe kitu kizuri, hata tukiuza vitabu tuwe tunajisikia na tunafurahia juu sisi tulimchagua hii serikali kwa upendo mwingi na raha yote.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Elvis Otieno.
Now, with the history taking place, there's always bound to be fiery drama surrounding it. But what would a memorable day be without a few light moments? Thanks to savage netizens, today's events ravaged the social media realms with seconds after they unfolded. Here is Teresa Mutai with more of the social drama.
What a historical day it has been, and with the keyboard warriors making the most out of the day, we definitely have to see what they had to say. Like every other ceremonial day, it is customary to keep the attendants entertained with all sorts of music and dramatizations. I mean, which cyber surfer doesn't like a good time? That is all we exist for, right? However, during today's inauguration, some netizens feel the DJ may have been opening wounds and pouring a jar of salt into them. Billy the Goat, hizi ni gospel songs ama ni diss tracks bwana. Zina slap different if you are Team Blue watching. Crying emoji. Becca, kwanza ile Mungu alinena naye Musa ichokia tukivue slaps harder than I thought.
Kwa nini Mungu unatupatia punishment?
Calvin, we zima bana. Laughing emoji. Hizo nguvu kidogo nilibakisha zitaisha bana. Nancy, what is this song of ombea adui yako at Ruto's swearing in ceremony? Must they rub it in? Jimmy, ombea adui yako song was unnecessary. But to ease the pain, Rigathi Gachagua, the newly sworn-in deputy president, contributed the most to savage netizens' joy after missing his lines during the reading of his speech. Rigathi, with a newly earned title, Riggy, that even his wife attested to knowing it, gave the masses premium content to run with.
Of the Republic of Kenya.
That I will diligently
serve the people,
discharge my duties, and perform my functions in the said office.
May I request that we take it again, please?
To the best of my judgment. Allah! Allah!
I'm sorry, let's take it again.
Osama, whoever came up with the name Riggy, deserves recognition. Syrian tweeted, not Riggy, trying to remix the oath. Justus tweeted, Judge, please repeat after me. Riggy? No, you repeat after me. Eddie Butita, karibu Rigathi Gachagua ajiapishe. Laughing emoji. Mr. Riggy will surely give us top-tier content.
Makofi.
DJ John Falme, our deputy Rigi G, wampatia the right document, Zoea Big Daddy G. With the handing over of power came the switching of sides for aide de camp from Uhuru Kenyatta to William Samoei Ruto. The move convulsed the most with laughter. MA tweeted, the aide de camp has really switched sides, Power is transient. Shaq responded, na ni hivyo utaachwa na manzi yako ukilose value. Laughing emoji. Hey! Wiseman can't have enough of these. Frederick, adios muchachos. However, in the midst of all the drama, netizens continued to congratulate the President William Ruto, wishing him well as he takes over the new office. Well, that's it for us. Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Yeah, laughter is medicine. Many thanks indeed, Teresa, there. I also saw Obama take a second oath after an inauguration stumble, but it's always good to have a lawyer around. Out of abundant caution, they will always ask you to do a retake. O'Brien.
Well, I mean, savage netizen always leaves me in stitches. Who would ever thought that Rigathi Gachagua would be nicknamed Rigi G? Quite interesting. I mean, look, for the last 1 hour or so, we've been talking about this man, Dr. William Ruto, and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. But who exactly is Dr. William Ruto? How do we trace his history, and where is this man hailing from? I want to take you now back to the profile of this man who has now become the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya, a man expected to shepherd this nation for the next 5 years. And so, let's see. Oh, there you go. So, man, it's not. Let's get to. These are the challenges with technology.
It's very interesting.
No, it's. Let's see how we're gonna get it. For sure. There you are.
Get it.
There you are.
There you go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. 66.
Right.
He was born in 1966. He's actually 1 year older or younger? Younger than
I believe you're younger.
His deputy. So I'll get out of it.
All right, just go back. This man was born on the 21st of December in 1966 back in a village called Kamagut in Uasin Gishu County. That was 3 years after Kenya attained self-rule in 1963. And in 1992, he joined Youth for KANU, a political youth lobby group ahead of the 1992 election. And here he teamed up with, among others, Cyrus Jirongo. In 1997, he was elected Eldoret North Constituency Member of Parliament, and in 1998, appointed Assistant Minister in the office of the President. Remember, back then, the President was the late Daniel Arap Moi, and he was one of the youngest member of Moi's cabinet. In 2002, he retained the Eldoret North Constituency parliamentary seat. And I remember this was during the rainbow wave, and so he managed to beat so much competition there to retain that position. And in 2002, he was appointed Minister for Home Affairs. In 2005, he was elected KANU Secretary General. And remember, Uhuru Kenyatta, the outgoing or the immediate former president, was his boss in KANU. There you are. In 2005, he joined Raila Odinga in opposing the constitutional referendum. And we all remember the Chungwa versus Ndizi referendum, whereby in 2006, he announced his ambition to vie for the presidency in 2007 general election. And in 2007, he was re-elected for the second time to represent Eldoret North constituency in Parliament. This was after the much contested 2000 2007 election that led to serious bloodshed in the country. In 2007, the ODM lost the election to Nax Mwai Kibaki. This was in the hotly contested election, and we all know what followed next. And in 2008 to 2010, he served as the Minister for Agriculture. That was for a period of 2 years. In 2010, he was transferred to the Ministry of Higher Education, but later suspended. And in 2012, his URP party merged with Uhuru Kenyatta's the National Alliance to become a Jubilee Party. In 2013, he became the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya after Jubilee won the presidential election under the tutelage of President Uhuru Kenyatta, the immediate former president. In 2017, the Uhuru Kenyatta William Ruto ticket successfully ran for a second term in office, and he retained his position as the deputy president. In 2022, he was declared president or deputy president elect by the Supreme Court. That was last month. And today, that is September 13th, 2022, he was inaugurated as president of the Republic of Kenya. That is Dr. William Ruto, becoming the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya for the next 5 years. And who is Rigathi Gachagua as well? Let's now look at Rigathi Gachagua here, the man who has become his deputy. And there you go. Let's get this right. There you see. So, Rigathi Gachagua, he was born in Herega village in Mathira of Nyeri County in 1971. That was in 1965. In 1971 to 1977, he was a pupil at Kafiroine Primary School in Nyeri County. And in 1978 to 1981, he proceeded to Kianyaga High School. That's right. He proceeded to Kianyaga High School for his O-levels and A-levels. In 1982 to 1983, he proceeded to Kianyaga High School for A-levels. In 1985 to 1988, he enrolled at the University of Nairobi, where he graduated with Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Literature. At the university, he headed the Nyeri District University Students Association, as well as the Association of Literature Students. In 1989 to 1990, Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs and the National Heritage. In 1990, he was recruited as a district officer cadet, underwent paramilitary training at the Administration Police Institute. In 1999 to 2000, he did a course in advanced public administration at the Kenya School of Government here in Nairobi. Where did we go from there? For 1 year, he was posted to the office of the president as a district officer cadet. He served in the provincial administration as a district officer for 14 years in Kirinyaga, Kiambaa, Limuru, Ngarua, Kakamega, and Garissa. Remember, back then they used to be districts. We never used to have counties. 2001 to 2006, worked as a personnel assistant to the then Minister for Local Government. Guess who that was? It was none other than President, the immediate former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. And so, in 2017, he was elected as a Member of Parliament for Mathira constituency on a Jubilee ticket. In 2022, he was declared the Deputy President elect by the Supreme Court. And today, the 13th of September 2022, he was inaugurated as the Deputy President of Kenya. Well, a position that is going to serve for the next 5 years. So that is a brief history of the two gentlemen who have taken over the reins of leadership of this country in the next 5 years. Tom, what is so interesting for you, or what stands out about the profile of these two gentlemen?
straight from the top of my head, the youngest president ever in the history of this nation. Yeah, and just that knowledge, sort of tells you where the nation is heading. Yeah.
And also another interesting thing is the fact that Ruto also was one of the youngest members of the cabinet during Mboya's time. That was in 1992, and so that tells you that he has always been a man of many ambitions.
And then there's there's this beautiful story of selling chicken just a couple of years ago, and now being in charge of the nation's destiny, working from the house on the hill.
That reminds me of what the former US President Barack Obama used to say, that your dreams are valid if you make them work. Take it over.
Even Lupita Nyong'o said that as well.
Even Lupita Nyong'o, eh?
Yeah, she did say that every dream is valid. Thanks, O'Brien.
Very well.
Thanks. I did it very well. I like the way you handled that little hiccup, shall I call it?
Well, I expect a bottle maybe of champagne. That is after these, eh?
I buy, but I don't drink.
Not a problem, sir.
Okay. Cheers, bro. I like that. Thanks. Well, let's move on. Rachel Ruto has earned a name for herself in Kenyan politics. During her tenure as the deputy president's wife, she has advocated for women's rights and also empowerment through the Joyful Women organization that has spurred development through a table banking initiative, or Chama as the locals refer to it. Here now is the story of Kenya's First Lady, Rachel Ruto.
Although the spotlight is mostly on her husband, President William Samoei Ruto, Kenya's First Lady, Rachel Ruto, is an eloquent woman interested in the empowerment of women across the country. Her humble demeanor, coupled with her religious attributes, has earned her the admiration of many. In the eyes of the typical religious Kenyan, Ruto's meteoric rise in the political space is largely credited to Rachel's prayers. From very humble beginnings, she rose to become a successful woman that many look up to for guidance and inspiration.
Kama kuna jambo tumefanya, kama kuna jambo tumetamka, na tunaomba kwamba Mungu atusaidie hata katika the next dispensation. Mungu atatusaidia, maana yale yote ambayo hata tumeweza kufanya, mtu hangeweza kufanya kwa uwezo wake.
Rachel Chebet Ruto was born on November 20th, 1968 in Kakamega in the western part of Kenya. She went to Lukuyani Primary School in Kakamega County and later proceeded to Butere Girls High School for her O and A levels, after which she joined Kenyatta University for a Bachelor of Education degree and later Catholic University of Eastern Africa in 2011 for a Master of Arts degree. Despite excelling in her academic journey, she did not get a chance to practice as a teacher for long. She ventured into the tour business, taking people throughout the country to places like Masai Mara and Mombasa. Rachel met and started dating Ruto while she was at the university, while her husband William Ruto was at the University of Nairobi studying botany. The two got married in 1991 and now have 6 children.
Wonderful, wonderful. They're looking good.
She has been a great support system in her husband's political career. While touring the country, Rachel identified the struggle women in rural areas face, walking long distances to get water, and this problem gave birth to the project Drops of Gold, an initiative to help women get clean water for use. She executed this project in collaboration with the Kenyan government. She is also known for table banking for groups, commonly known as chamas, which operate on a merry-go-round basis as a way of empowering women to save and invest. Rachel Ruto, under the umbrella Mama Cycling or Cycling for Forests, together with other cyclists from Spiking's KE and KR Cycling, continues to push for the incorporation of green and sustainable road infrastructure like cycling and walking lanes in the country's program that will go a long way in achieving a just road system. She
She has also ventured into cross-stitching for women in prison to cross-stitch their embroideries, which are kept in a frame and sold, and the money from the cross-stitching is given to them once they leave the prison.
After many years, I happened to have traveled out of the country, and I came across a piece of cross-stitch that was very big. And it looked like, the technology had changed. Indeed, technology had changed on how to do cross-stitch. It was easier. So I bought several suitcases, brought them, and when I got here, I thought, wow, why can't we empower the women in prison, behind bars, the vulnerable, so that at least they can stitch. And that is how I thought about the women behind bars.
She also started a poultry project which supplies chicks to women across the country at an affordable price. Rachel Ruto now takes the tag of First Lady from Margaret Kenyatta. For Prime Edition, I'm Nisi Imano.
It's time to reset, restart, reskill, and talk about health matters. Wake up, eat healthy, and keep fit. And together with our health experts, we'll be helping you understand health conditions and terminologies.
PCOS, as you said, is a very long name. First of all, if you can break it down, it's poly, and then cystic, and then syndrome.
Join me, Mariambo, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on Your Health, only on KBC Channel 1.
Honestly, I didn't even know that Osvaldo was here. It was a complete surprise to me to find him here at the hotel.
We were supposed to meet here in order to get to know each other again and to open up to each other. And now you hide this from me?
He stole your heart and stole my hope of having you by my side. Grandma, why didn't you announce yourself? Why do you just barge in?
So that's why I'm begging you. Please don't look for me again. Please don't ever come near me. Just pretend that I don't exist. If I have to resign, I will, because I don't want to lose my daughter.
Thought I'd react like this. Oh! I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
A very good evening to you. I do hope you're holding up well. Just a reminder that there's so much sports happening in the world, in the country, despite all our focus being on the 5th president of Kenya. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's now take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. Now, the national 3x3 women's basketball team's departure to Constanta, Romania for the FIBA 3x3 Under-23 Nations League received a major boost when the National Olympic Committee of Kenya extended support to them. The Nations League is the first stride in qualifying for the 2024 Paris Olympics, whereby the top country earns a direct ticket. The Kenyan team consists of Alexandra Juma, Captain Madina Okot, Jacqueline Kogo, and Yvonne Okello. Head coach Tony Ochieng and team manager Hilmi Ali will accompany the team to the games slated for 14th to 16th September. Now, Kenya is drawn in Pool D alongside Japan and Lithuania.
Most importantly, it's to do our best, perform. I'd say that we've done our level best, despite a bit of challenges here and there. And I'm confident in how much we've worked, and yeah, I'd say we're prepared, we're ready.
3x3 will take Kenya to many places, and also the ranking in Kenya in the world. We've been the ranking as we are speaking, we are number 1 in Africa. We have beaten Egypt. We have surpassed Egypt, so this is good for us. And now we are focusing on the African Cup, which is also the biggest tournament of FIBA in Africa. It's the biggest tournament in FIBA. It has a lot of points, and FIBA is very serious with it.
Kenya's Christine Ongare was knocked out of the Africa Boxing Championship currently going on in Maputo, Mozambique, after losing her quarterfinal bout 4 points to 1 to Margaret Tembo of Zambia today. Ongare was among other Kenyan fighters who had moved into the quarters of the Continental Championship, with the other boxers set for their quarterfinal bouts tonight. Shafi Bakari will fight against George Molwantwa of Botswana in the men's 54 kilograms bout. Samuel Njau will take to the ring against Ali Badra of Guinea in the men's 57 kilograms bout, while Neko Koth will face Jerry Agathe in the men's 60 kilograms bout.
De Luiz Richard Mukolin de Mauritânia. Estamos então para este terceiro combate, primeiro combate masculino. Aqui já temos mais agilidade. De verdade seja dita, não faltou agilidade no combate anterior. Este pugilista da África do Sul está de vermelho. Já mostrou ter um golpe de esquerda violento.
We do wish all the Kenyan boxers who are taking to the ring tonight all the best. Now, currently, there are 5 fixtures going on the Champions League, and I can see that Liverpool have already beat Ajax 1-0. Bayern and Barcelona are still on a stalemate. Porto and Club Brugge 1-0. Most of the matches are still on a stalemate. Tomorrow we have 9 fixtures on the cards, so there is a lot in store for you. Make sure you don't miss out. Yes, catch some Champions League action tonight. Liverpool is leading 1-0 against Ajax. I'll keep you up to date with all the details tomorrow about how these fixtures went down tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. Those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. I'll definitely see you tomorrow with more stories. But for now, I do hand you back to my colleague O'Brien, who is on my left side. O'Brien, take it away.
Oh yeah, thank you very much indeed, Karen, for that update from the sports world. And of course, we continue with the coverage of the Inauguration Day. Now we want to give you a dose of President Uhuru Kenyatta, the immediate former president of the Republic of Kenya, who has been president since 2013. He's now retiring. And of course, there's what we call the take-home package. After a period of work, you definitely have to retire. But what you take home is what we're about to take you through, what President Uhuru Kenyatta is taking home. And so, it has been an end of an era. This man, Uhuru Kenyatta, you know, he was born in 1961 as Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That was 2 years before Kenya achieved or attained independence. He attended St. Mary's School here in the leafy suburb of Lavington in Nairobi, and he graduated from America's Amherst College, a degree in political science and economics. In 1997, he contested and won the Kanu branch chairmanship for Gatundu, which is in Kembu County. And in 1999, President Daniel Arap Moi appointed him as the chairman of Kenya Tourism Board. And in 2001, President Moi nominated Uhuru Kenyatta to Parliament and appointed him Minister for Local Government. In 2002, elected one of the 4 KANU National Vice chairpersons. In 2002, again, he vied for presidency, losing to opposition leader Mwai Kibaki. This was, remember the fallout in KANU after President Moi the late, picked Uhuru Kenyatta to be his higher apparent, and so there was a fallout in KANU. And in 2002, he vied for presidency. He lost to opposition leader Mwai Kibaki. Well, in 2005, he won the KANU national chairmanship after defeating Nicholas Biwott Thilet, the man who used to be referred to by many as the Total Man. In 2005, he campaigned against the referendum to amend the constitution alongside Raila Odinga. This was one of the rare moments that the two came together. Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Remember their fallout in 2002 when so many people were expecting that Moi was going to endorse Raila Odinga, but instead he endorsed Uhuru Kenyatta to carry the flag for the presidency in 2002. And so in 2005 they were brought together by the referendum whereby they were opposing the referendum, the changes, and so they were on the Chungwa side. Remember what I was telling you about the Chungwa and the Ndizi. In 2007, he was declared KANU, or declared KANU, and will not field a presidential candidate, but instead backed President Kibaki's second bid. In 2008, he was appointed Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade. And so, prosecuted over 2007-08 post-election violence over crimes against humanity at The Hague, he shuffled to the Ministry of Finance while maintaining his deputy premiership. In 2013, Mount Kenya region has fronted him to succeed retiring President Mwai Kibaki. In 2013, he won the presidency with his running mate William Ruto on Jubilee ticket against his closest rival Raila Odinga. In 2015, ICC dropped the crimes against humanity charges against this man, and in 2017, he won the 2017 presidential election against Raila Odinga. In 2018, shook hands with opposition leader Raila Odinga, his preferred successor in 2022. In 2022, his preferred candidate, that is Raila Odinga, lost presidential election to his deputy, William Ruto. And today, the 13th of September 2022, Uhuru Kenyatta's reign as the fourth president of the Republic of Kenya came to a close today, handing over the mantle of leadership to his deputy, that is none other than Dr. William Ruto. That is a brief history of President Uhuru Kenyatta, the former or the immediate president. And now, the big interview is up next. Tom Mboya is with a team of experts who are going to help us understand more about the inauguration day today. Tom.
I want to thank you, O'Brien Kimani, for just standing in. You've done a good job. Brilliant. I'm proud of you. Well, as I'd indicated, yes, Davis Kambale Tayo, economic empowerment expert, I want to thank you so much for coming through. You know, we don't take it for granted. Dr. Julian Roa, once again, asante sana.
Thank you.
For coming through. I mean, we all saw earlier on the president take oath of office, the instruments of power were handed over to him, and there was a lot of frenzy in the stadium. People were super excited. His supporters said, finally, it had happened. So let me start with you. When you saw all those proceedings and the events as they unfolded, what was going through your mind? What was going through your heart?
Thank you for having me. It's a great day for Kenya today. And the one person I was waiting to hear talk was President Museveni.
Kaguta?
Yes.
Are you serious?
And he did.
And he's very good with the mic, by the way.
He didn't disappoint. And what I took from him was the very elderly thought that having natural resources in itself doesn't bring prosperity.
Yeah.
It's what you do with the natural resources. And by luck, that almost became the bedrock of the president's address, because it was heavy on value addition, it was heavy on implementation, it was heavy on, making things accessible to the consumer. So he said, he opened the curtain, so to speak, very well. The second thing that struck me as I listened to the president was, the way Swahilis will say, haya. The Kenya Kwanza manifesto has become a policy document because the president was starting to implement what he had promised. And he wasn't going to wait a day longer. He has done things even today. For a moment I thought, we have a president who has been in government but a bit constrained. Now he's in charge. It almost feels like he knows what he needs to do, what needs to be done, and he's going after it, and he's wasting no minute, no effort to do it. And so I'm personally very optimistic. We have one of the youngest presidents we've ever had, a God-fearing president, and a PhD for that matter. So we, as a country, I think we are in for a good ride. For a good ride, yeah.
Daktari, yes. And it's not the PhD for pull him down, but pull her down. But for you, when you watched that moment, finally, somebody who starts off selling chicken, being sworn into office as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya, what was going through your mind? What was going through your heart?
Tom, like him, don't like him, he's made a powerful statement that if you're so focused on what you want to achieve for yourself and you sustain the discipline that goes with it, the sacrifices that goes with it, you will succeed. Against all odds, and I say all odds because if you listen to his speech today, you can tell that the challenge that he was facing was Herculean, really, really, really huge. But he surmounted that, and he still succeeded. In that I see a person who is really focused, tenacious, clearly knows what he wants, and he goes for it. And for that, I am also very persuaded that it is possible. To your question about what my reading of the day was, first, before I go there, I want to congratulate KBC for the profound recognition that the administration of the president bestowed on you by giving you the right to broadcast this event of today. And may long that continue. My challenge to KBC is to leverage on that goodwill and continue doing good. But yes, there's frenzy, a lot of frenzy. The country is pregnant with expectations. Yeah. President Ruto, Dr. Ruto, made such bold commitments. And Kenyans are beginning to believe that it is possible. So there's optimism, serious optimism. As he spoke, we are forced to ask the question, there's so many things he enumerated that he wanted to do, which an analyst like me asks, what exactly is he not saying? For me, when I was listening to his speech, I was listening to a report card of the outgoing administration. And some of the things that he said he wanted to do has made me begin to believe that there was something fundamentally flawed in the way that we had structured our governance. And I'm sorry to say that on air. And he's out to correct that. When you talk about CBC being reviewed, long after we know that it is running, it means that there's some questions that have not been answered. When you're talking about the port being moved from Naivasha back to Mombasa, it tells me that there are certain considerations that were not made. And it probably did not make economic sense to make that decision then. This is just me wearing my analytical mind. So the report card against the outgoing administration is extremely harsh. What do I see going forward? A bold change of direction.
A bold change of direction.
Yeah.
There was a notable absentee.
Yeah.
And he gave a reason. And I saw a senior lawyer saying he was ably represented by the chairman of his side of
the coalition.
Yeah. So I don't know. He has been absent in many occasions. So, I mean, it's his right. It's, he has explained himself. He thinks the result of the election was indeterminate, and he says he will talk more when he comes. So I think we just have to wait and see. But I can't fail to mention the tyranny of foreign dignitaries and heads of state who attended. There were quite a number, and that's a statement again from the continent that we have a leader who even the outside world believes in, and we really need to just, be over and done with the election period and get to work. You could see what Shangazi wa Africa alisema. The Eastern Africa countries are very proud and grateful to Kenya for having kept peace, because we are the center of many commercial transactions, and any instability in this country would have affected the region.
And I'll tell you why I asked that, because I know it's clear in the conscience of the nation that the president has the daunting task of bringing the nation together, and it requires goodwill across board. Okay.
I think on the president's side, even in his speech, he was very magnanimous. He referred to the Prime Minister as his friend. So I think he has stretched his hand. So what we're waiting to see if the hand will be stretched from the other side. Yes, yeah.
You wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, it's a good question that you ask. And I mean, I'm just appreciating the sensitivities around his demeanor right now. It's a tough blow to take. Having tried it a couple of times when you really thought you had it, and then you lose it, that can be painful. So I imagine that the Right Honorable Prime Minister may just need some time out, just to recollect himself and rediscover himself before he can come back and begin again, the process of engaging in the development of the country. Being a football fan, I'm reminded of, if you remember, Manchester United playing Sunderland. I can't remember this season, and they were winning the Premier League by, I think, just a point, until Manchester City took up the title with just 2 or so minutes to the end of a game against Queen's Park Rangers, and they took the title. I have never recovered from that, because that competition was so tight. So if you look at this particular competition, it was really
it was very
tight.
close, by the way.
And that can be more painful.
Yeah, it can be more
than
painful.
you can imagine.
In fact, my mind has gone, when you talked about soccer, my mind went to, you remember the boxing match between Muhammad Ali and I think it was George Foreman.
A very good example.
The rumble
in the jungle. Exactly.
And George Foreman was actually dictating
the terms of a fight.
Yeah. Until the tail end of the fight.
It changed.
Tables turned. And he tumbled and stumbled on the weight of Muhammad's punches. And this is what George said. All right? That Muhammad had the opportunity to throw in the killer punch while he was falling.
Exactly.
But he didn't. And at that point, George Foreman says he knew Muhammad was the greatest. That when somebody is down, you allow them some latitude.
Beautiful analogy.
To sort of breathe.
Precisely.
And so on and so forth. But let's go to, because he also spoke about the hustler fund. And there are questions, you need to crystallize a problem and then sort of find a solution from there. But I'm wondering, given the present fiscal infrastructure, how do you think the president will drive this ambitious, what you call a policy document now?
It's an easy thing to implement. Maybe my banking background is coming to the fore. Kenya has succeeded in creating a number of affirmative funds, from the Youth Enterprise Fund, from the Women Enterprise Fund, the Uwezo Fund, the CDF Fund, more or less geared towards supporting national government, projects and all that. But the idea of an affirmative fund is to address a deficiency within the funding stream, which the mainstream funding mechanisms like commercial banks don't want to touch. And if you look at the myriad of challenges facing SMEs and the youth in terms of accessing credit, it's all about the risk they want to undertake.
Okay.
So the Hustler Fund is coming in to bridge that risk. So we have a script to learn from. The failures or the successes of the Youth Fund, Women's Resources Fund, and all the other funds.
Yeah.
But the key thing about the Hustler Fund is that it will be anchored to address the cost of credit, because the president was very articulate in saying how the young, the small traders are paying, interest in thousands of percentage points compared to the corporates who are paying even sub-10 levels of credit. Number two, he has also indicated how it's going to be implemented. He's mentioned the creation of a Ministry of Cooperatives and SMEs. So for me, that is the broad implementation platform. If I may take you to class a bit, when you look at
for the viewer
in the financial mediation structure, you have the commercial banks who are deposit takers, and most of them are owned by investors. You have the rich putting in money and forming banks. Then on this other side, you have the SACCOs, the cooperatives, as we call them. These are formed by members, and we save to create the SACCOs. So the Hustler Fund seems like a fund which will be implemented through the cooperatives, and you see now you're going to the people who actually need the money, and you're working with their institutions. You may want to call these demand-driven institutions. Here you have investors who are investing into the financial sector. Here you have consumers who are coming together, forming chamas, forming SACCOs, forming self-help groups, and pooling funds. Now these funds are not sufficient. So the Hustler Fund is coming to boost the ability of these funds to support trade and investment amongst the SMEs. So there's hope. There's hope. The implementation framework is there. If the ministry is created, it gives it a very strong legal framework because it will have its own budget. The Hustler Fund will have somewhere to sit, and the implementation will start.
Listening to him, do you envy the presidency?
I don't envy him at all. At all.
Why?
And I hold a different view. I'm very optimistic that he'll be able to deliver on this promise, because the hustler really needs supporting. All of us that have succeeded in one way or the other needed some bit of hand-holding. And I think that is what the president is trying to do. But there's an equation here that needs to be balanced. There is a manifesto, which is very ambitious. There are obligations that we have as a country, debt being one of them.
10 trillion.
10 trillion. I remember.
Huge.
The deputy president speaking about that. And then there's the status of our coffers, which we have been told
we are broke.
It's empty.
Simply put.
That equation, how you balance it, becomes another very difficult task. I remember the president saying we have to stop digging. So if you stop digging, then what is the source of your funding? So that speaks to the model that he wants to do. I like what Davis has said. It's in support of, but it is still money that you need. How is that model to work? That still remains a fundamental question, and in the coming weeks, I'll be very eager to see how the president has done, what has structured that.
Absolutely.
What I don't want to see as a Kenyan is a situation where you take from Peter so that you can hand over to Paul. I would have a problem with that, because that raises the issue of sustainability of that fund. Anything we do today should live beyond the tenure of the presidency. That would be my take.
That would be your take. You want to throw in something, or I go to the question I want to ask about CBC?
Let me link something critical which he said also. The payment of pending bills. You see, in any economy, you must have an inlet of funds. And when government spends and pays in time, it's infusing funds into the economy. So there's that tap which is closed now, and there's a promise to unlock it. If that happens within this year, I can assure you there'll be some big circulation triggered within the economy, and that will really help to release liquidity to the SMEs. But the most important thing that it will do is that it will create faith in government debt, almost like making the lenders now ready to support SMEs who are working with government. Because right now, if you get a tender from government, banks will be, not very willing to support you, because they know if they finance you, you will perform, but you will not be paid. So if the government redeems itself and starts paying that debt, it will even attract support from the private sector.
From the private sector.
To the SMEs. And that will even, it will be a hustler for now from private sector.
But let me ask you this, because you're still on finance. He also talked about subsidy, the subsidy interventions not being sustainable in the long run. And you get a feeling that, if he removes that, then what is the impact on issues like fuel? I know you drove down here.
The cost of living.
The cost of living.
I'm waiting. He has given indications as to what he will do in the food sector by addressing the production side. Because again, if you don't do anything on the production side, then you have to intervene at the point of consumption. And that's why you bring subsidies to reduce the prices. So in sorting out production, the prices of commodities will certainly go down. So it's a bottom up, the way he speaks. But for fuel, there is a problem which we really need to be open-minded. Our neighbors here, Uganda, are building a refinery. It's going to cost them $4 billion. That's almost 480 billion shillings. So far as a country, we've spent 144 billion on fuel subsidies. So the question begs, why did we do away with our refinery in Changamwe? Is it possible that if we had our own refinery, this fuel problem will not be there? So I saw he left it open. I think there will be need for wider consultations within the sector for us to know, should we go back to importing crude to refine it ourselves, or should we invest more into Turkana, get our own crude, or all those opportunities need to be discussed in view of the costly nature of the fuel subsidy. And it's not only us who are seeing it, even the World Bank has seen it, and they're coming out strong to tell the government to stop it. So the jury is out there. We'll see what happens.
Before I come to Daktari to also, react, and perhaps as we wind down and close the show, there was also the question of, we saw a decisive president making a decision there and then. Let's go back to Mombasa. Let's stop Naivasha. But then what happens to Naivasha? It's left exposed.
I like the analogy Daktari said, take from Tom, give to Paul. Clearing and forwarding was one of the mainstays in Mombasa. The employees were leasing or renting houses, or landlords were there reaping from it. You had people transporting the short haulage, people transporting goods from the port to the container freight services. You had the investors in the container freight services employing people and storing goods and all that. So all that collapsed when the SGR was activated and the Indian Container Depot in Naivasha, Nairobi became active, and it was a situation where a ship will dock and all the containers were just put on the SGR and ferried to Mombasa. So the clearing started happening in Nairobi. I know people had to move their farms to Nairobi. So moving that to Mombasa almost gives back to Peter the food that was ready on their plate. So I saw the president saying that Naivasha will now revert to being an industrial park. And it can work very well because it's near power generation, so power will be cheaper because the cost of transmission
and that was what it was initially set up for, wasn't it?
Yes.
All right.
But it can still continue being an ICD, an Inland Container Depot for transit goods, because it makes all the sense for the people who transport goods to Uganda and through the borders to pick them from Naivasha.
Okay.
So let's wait and see.
Doctor, I mean, you talked about production and consumption. Going heavy on production and so on. But Doctor, I want to ask you, because you're a scholar, CBC, he talked about it, and we are not sure whether he's planning to rest that system. But I want to ask you, as you because there are people who think that CBC is working extremely well, but there are those who disagree. I want to ask you, as you respond to that, so that when we're winding down, do you think Kenya is ready for a radical approach, or, for example, starting to focus more on producing knowledge rather than consuming? Thinking around, do we start teaching sciences in our institutions to raise the level of comprehension? I ask that deliberately because I know you're a scholar. And this CBC thing is an area where the lights are off and we're walking and groping in the dark. Do you think so? Do you get a sense?
I get a sense. Let me, in my reaction, that's a very good question. Very, very, very good question. My view is that there's nothing wrong in producing knowledge, and there's nothing wrong in consuming knowledge, because there'll always be best practices that you can borrow, that you can learn from. So there's nothing wrong in consuming. And you can even tie it and say, in the initial stages, let's consume. Then at a certain level, let's produce. So if you ask me, are we ever producing at any level? And now when I look at production, I'm looking at master level education, I'm looking at PhD level education. My answer will be, we are not producing. And that causes a fundamental problem. But consuming and production is good, depends on which lens you look at it with. Back to the question of CBC and his radical pronouncement about what he wants to do, including going back to the citizenry to debate the viability or feasibility of whatever, that raises some other fundamental issues. And you're left asking, did we think it through? Did we think it through? Those are the big questions. So CBC, talking to a critical friend, they really love it, but they tell you that the implementation has been poor. You called me a scholar. If you ask me what CBC is designed to do, I cannot answer you.
Wow.
I have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just said that on national TV.
Yeah, I said that on national TV.
I want to thank you, the both of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just to add this, Ryder, there was a comment about the ordinary Kenyan getting space in this country. We must not lose that, and we must hold the president accountable to that pronouncement. It is the most beautiful thing I've had in my 54 years of life.
Wow.
Under any administration.
You don't look it. But I want to thank you, Davis Kambale-Tayo. Thank you for coming, economic empowerment expert, and Dr. Julian Roa. I mean, what stood out for me was what the president said. He made a promise to each and every Kenyan. He told them, I will make you proud, and that I will ensure that economic fairness comes to all of you, regardless of who you voted for, or even if you didn't vote, it's okay. He is your president now. He is the president now. So I'll hand it over to O'Brien. O'Brien, thank you for teaching me what patience is all about.
Well, absolutely. And I think Dr. wanted us to feel bad that he's 55 and we are still maybe in our late 30s or early 40s. Dr. that was a bad challenge, but your sins have been forgiven.
Yeah.
Very good. I mean, I was talking about the retirement package that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to get upon retirement, and here it is. It's not meant to make you feel bad, but it's supposed to challenge your thoughts about this position. And so let me take you through this. He will be receiving 1.1 million shillings as monthly pension. That is to help him survive, and throughout his life, he'll be entitled to 1.2 million shillings per month as a salary for being a past president of this country. The annual gratuity of over 72 million shillings. And then he's supposed to be entertained, and this comes at a cost of 216,563,100 shillings. He's also entitled to 4 cars, each coming with a driver, bodyguards and 6 security guards, full medical cover for him and his family. And his family is the wife, his wife, because all his children are above the age of 22. And so he's also expected to get 332,000 shillings as a house allowance. And also, fuel, when you're complaining about fuel, Uhuru Kenyatta will be getting about 216,562 shillings as fuel allowance. And for the payment of electricity, water, and so much, he's entitled to 300,000 shillings. Gosh, that's a lot of money. And staff for fully furnished office, 2 cooks, for housekeepers, for messengers, 4 secretaries, and 2 laundry personnel. That is what President Uhuru Kenyatta is entitled to enjoy during his retirement. Well, that's good enough, to motivate you to gun for this top position in this country, Tom. I don't know whether you're challenged.
Yeah, but if what the president is anything to go by what he said during the inauguration, I get a sense that the focus is on economic empowerment. Yeah, so I would be happy to go the route that Tayo talked about.
What I like most is the entertainment era, allowance of almost 250,000 shillings. That's good enough to send you to Mombasa, have some good time there, and of course come back, on first class. I mean, it's quite something, yeah?
Okay.
I'm challenged.
Okay.
Gentlemen,
thank you.
Have yourself a very good night. It was nice seeing you, and of course, let's keep the conversation going on. My name is O'Brien Kamani. Thank you for your time. This has been Prime Edition, and of course, a special coverage on the Inauguration Day.
Yeah, and my name is Mboya on behalf of my guests. And by the way, the people who work in the back end who do a great job. You don't get to see them. We get all the credit because we are visible. But I want to thank you on their behalf. My name is Mboya, and from the capital city of Nairobi, Kenya. Good night. God bless you.
To reset, restart, reskill, and talk about health matters. Wake up, eat healthy, and keep fit. And together with our health experts, we'll be helping you understand health conditions and terminologies.
PCOS, as you said, is a very long name. First of all, if you can break it down, it's poly, and then cystic, and then syndrome.
Join me, Mariambo, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on Your Health, only on KBC Channel 1.
Uone hizi kelele zako ndo zinafanya mtoto anaumia au mpaka Dr. Zero akwambie ndo uelewe? Sitaki kumwona kesi nyumbani kwangu. Period.
It's going to be okay very soon. You'll be happy, I promise. Not too soon. Hapa kuna furaha.
Mimi ananihusu hiyo kahindi.
Don't you think I deserve this?
But you're spending too much, Zari.
Dr. Zero, she says she wants to help me.
There's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun. Entertaining and refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer. out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
William Ruto is sworn in as Kenya's fifth president. He takes over a country with many challenges, including food insecurity. What can the new administration do to address this? First Ukrainian shipment carrying wheat arrives in Sudan. And in our series on education in Africa, we take a look at the impact